We are very excited right now to welcome in a very special interview entering his second year as a head coach in the NWSL and his second year with the Houston Dash, head coach of the Dash, Fabrice Gautrat. Hey, coach, welcome back to A3. It's good to have you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope you guys feel rested as well as we do. So we're excited for a great New Year.
Happy New Year. It's January 22nd, my friend. We are
I haven't talked to you guys.
So. True. Happy New Season. New season.
Yeah. Happy new season. Okay, you just spoiled it for us. You're rested. Way to go. This off season for NWSL is a quick one. McCall and I were talking about that before we started the show today. What did you get into in this off season? How does Fabrice Gautrat relax and unwind?
So there was a piece of relaxing and unwinding, and that was over the Christmas break. Me and my wife went to a great little spot in the Maldives. So phenomenal. Highly recommend. Prior to that, though, did a lot of just reading, soul searching. I wanted to really touch up on, what do leaders say about leading high performing cultures, but more specifically high performing female athletes. And so, read up a lot of stuff on whether it's Emma Hayes, even Anson Dorrance, Mark McCord, like just different leaders in different spaces. So that was very influential. Also reading a bunch of books like Dawn Staley's, Kate, I think it's Kate Hayes. She worked with the England national team with Serena. So just a lot of more of that stuff. I actually, normally in the off season, I get more into the football stuff. I actually got into the more of the psychological stuff. So very, very refreshing and excited to implement some of those ideas this year.
Wait, I love this. I feel like we need a Fabrice book club or something. Yeah. Like we need your top 3 from this off season that you loved and read.
I would say How to Win, Dr. Kate Hayes. Like that one was, really? She had 4 building blocks, like phenomenal. Her and Serena are great leaders, and picked up a lot of knowledge from there for sure.
You touched on the psychological side of it. What's the biggest message that you picked up in reading all of these books that you want to implement this year?
Well, first and foremost, I don't think I did a good enough job of being very intentional, not in the football stuff last year, but in the how we build a culture piece. Do we all know who we are individually? And do we all know who we are as a collective? And so do we know our whys? Do we know our individual vision and our collective vision? And so those are all things that may sound subtle, but that actually, in my opinion, what forms a group and what actually helps you win games. Don't get me wrong, need to be clear on how you play, and you need to be crystal clear, good detail. I find those areas are what's actually going to move the needle.
Yeah, it's funny. McCall and I have actually talked about that before too, that when you have a team that has a good culture, everything else doesn't matter. You want to ride or die for your team when you have a good culture. And your first year coaching, full season as a head coach in the NWSL with the Houston Dash, 2025 was a crazy year. But when you look back, what are some of the biggest lessons you learned from last year? Or maybe some of the things that you were like, oh yeah, that was right. Or some of the things that you were thinking into 2026, I know what needs to improve with this team.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it first starts with me. If you want to build a great culture and a connected culture and a gritty culture, it's like, okay, who do you need to become in order for that to be a reality, right? So I think that's the first piece from that standpoint. As we started thinking, okay, if we need to grow in our communication, if we need to grow in our competitiveness, what are we doing daily in our environment to bring those things together? And it was actually simplifying our principles and simplifying our ideas and just making those a habit, right? We call them identity-based activities, right? So like that's something that, it's not about having 100 different exercises. Let's have a few that we're really going to hone in on and just train who we are. So there was a lot I would say, but being very intentional on how you make a group more competitive, how you make a group more cohesive. That's what I've learned most. And especially I would say in how we lead our internal leaders and how we continually stay aligned with those players.
Yeah, Fabrice, I think you would agree. Consistency was one of the things that kind of slipped from you guys last season. And then when you look at the table at the end, you're only 7 points shy of the playoffs. So that's really 2 wins, 1 tie. So you go back, you replay all those games that you just missed by a small margin. But again, it was your first season, all these new players coming together. And then, so now you're adding more players. I see that you dipped into North Carolina quite a bit, sir. Tar Heels, Duke, et cetera. I see what you're doing there. So do you have experience training those players like during your time in North Carolina or watching them in college, or how well do you know them?
Good question. I actually never trained any of those players. Our recruitment department does a really good job of just highlighting, players we need to bring. If you look at our roster last year, we were the second oldest team in the league. And so we need to bring more youth, especially if you want to be a pressing, counter-pressing team. Like, you need that athleticism. But if I know the draft is no longer there, and I'm not trying to add more pressure to these players, but if you look at it, these players, I would say probably 4 first rounders, like just in terms of the quality that they're bringing. And so we're very excited. They're very eager and hungry. And I think to build any sort of competitive team, you need depth. And I felt this year we're a lot deeper than we were last year.
I wanted to ask about some of these players.
So Leah Clanky, she was on my team for TST. She is such a good kid. I love her so much. And she's a great player. That was a good pickup. I was really excited for you, Fabrice. She's awesome. She's a good kid.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So she's a Houston native. So she actually grew up playing the last 3 years, just dropping in, training. And so she's seen this club evolve quite a bit. And so
she's like invested, passionate. Love that.
She loves her hometown. She loves her family. We're excited to have her.
It's fun when you get a player that wants to come home and go and play at a club that she grew up watching and cheering for. But you also brought in some top talent, the Mac Herman Trophy winner, Kate Fossey, Linda Olmark, Kat Rader. Give us a nugget on some of these players. Why are they a good fit for the Houston Dash?
So if you look at our highest goal scorer last year was Yasmin Ryan with 4 goals. As you all know, to be a top 4 contender, you need to increase the goal production. Sure, coaches need to be better and increase 100%. But I would say what Kat brings is just her productivity. Like as a 10, as a pocket player, even as a 7 or 11, her ability to pick people out, to create chances on goal, like speaks for itself. Kate Fossey, I was just looking at even some of her stats. I think her shooting on goal percentage is like close to 50%. So she's always hitting the target consistently. Her ability to press and counter press over 90 minutes is really impressive. And then Linda, when we started getting, news that we could potentially get her, I'm really excited for her. I think she's a great blend of like a Danny and a Maggie. I think she has the ability on the ball. She also has that explosiveness. Like she's actually very athletic and can cover a lot of ground over long distance. So we're excited for all 4 of them.
Yeah, we can't wait to see this Houston Dash with the youngins coming in, pressing, this kind of electric energy, because you guys were such a joy. It was very clear what you were trying to build off of last season. And for you to get a second year to be able to do that is very exciting. But I wanted to ask you about the combine that happened. You alluded, no more draft. Now there's this first year NWSL Combine where players can get scouted. What was that experience like, especially as your first year experiencing it as well? Like, is that where you found a lot of players? Was it enjoyable? We just kind of want to get inside the minds of what the Combine was actually like.
Yeah, really good question. I would say our staff we have really clear roles and responsibilities. So full transparency, one of my roles was not necessarily to go to the Combine. So we had our recruitment department that, there was some talent in there, but if you look at the history of this league, how many undrafted players have gone on to do really well, or 4th round picks or 3rd round picks? So I think there's value, obviously the players that we picked, that was prior to Combine, or at least those discussions were happening. But I think the Combine has tremendous value to actually showcase some of these players who maybe have gone under the radar. So yeah, I personally wasn't there to watch and witness, but I do think it has a lot of value and something to look forward to build on in the future.
Yeah, and your opening game is versus San Diego, who's a big question mark right now. They're still kind of rebuilding and adding things to the roster as well. And then your second game is versus Boston Legacy. What's that like as a head coach going into play an expansion team where you basically have really no information, no film, no idea of how they're going to play? How do you approach a game like that?
Yeah, well, we'll have one game obviously because we'll play them in the second week. But I think what I've learned from last year is, don't get me wrong, you need to see what the opposition do. You need to have clear ideas and clear game plans. But if you train your team in a way that, if the opposition presses with a front 3 or a front 2 or a front 1, or they build with a 3 or 4, a lot of the trends you'll see come up throughout the year. And so I think if you can train that piece, but then on the flip side is really training who you are consistently. And I think the more we focus on us, the more calm, the more composed, the more confident we will be to actually do well in the game. So yes, it's a question mark. I think we focus on us, and we'll take care.
You've put in some work this offseason with picking up players, reading all these books. Like, I'm so excited for what Houston's going to look like. Darian, you mentioned it, like an electric, a high tempo team. What are you looking forward to this year, Coach, in what you want to see from your team in 2026?
Yeah, we've been very intentional in the offseason of one thing I want to keep growing in is how do we give more ownership to the team and to the leaders. And so, we brought in a leadership coach to work with our leaders. And so we're very excited for that. And, players like Jane, so Paige, even Avery kind of stepping in, those players really care about this club and they want to see us do it. And I just named those four. You can talk about the whole team really, but I'm excited to see how our players lead this environment and lead this group. That's what I'm really excited about, outside of the other stuff.
So Fabrice, are you done building your roster, or do you have more that you're going after right now?
It's a great question. Look, we always want to be more competitive, right? So, our recruitment department does such a good job of, identifying talent, who could help us, all those things. So, there's potential.
So somebody's in the works. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Can't wait for the news.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
Fabrice, I want to ask, you've talked a lot about, your work in the off season, building a culture, giving ownership to players. And we know what that can look like on the pitch. What does that look like off the pitch for you? It's a long season. You spend a lot of time traveling. What are those moments like to build that culture when you're not training on the field?
Yeah, it's been very intentional. So, us, let's say we're talking about the leadership group. So, myself and them, like having touch points weekly, and we just met a few days ago, just like, okay, what do we want these weekly get together? We call them huddles to look like, what's the intentionality between the leadership group, coach and the four leaders as of right now. What does that look like? What's that intentionality? And at the end of the day, like, you have to be very intentional. Your culture is not just it's not like we're just showing up. We're like, okay, let's figure out what to do. We're doing actually a lot of work right now to get us ready and prepared for the season.
People are talking about your team, Fabrice. Us here at A3, of course, the fans are excited. You did a great job with the rookies last year and the players you brought in. People are excited about the rookies that you're bringing in this year. With everything that the fans, media, Reddit is talking about, what's one thing we're not talking about that we should be about your team?
Great question. I would say just building on the consistency. I think we want to be a team that isn't. If you look at last year, we started a little slow. And so we want to really hit the ground running. That's why we've been so intentional in the offseason. So I think belief is high. Work rate's going to be high. We'll start next week, like really getting into it. And so, I would say we're really building this consistent identity. I felt like we wanted to be this team. We just didn't consistently show it. So I think that's what we're looking forward to most this next year.
Well, we are looking forward to it as well, watching, cheering for you guys, and talking with you and your players a little bit more as this season goes on. So thank you so much for hanging with us today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Good seeing you guys.
I'll see you at the Texas Showdown.
Bye.
Yeah. Fabrice Gautrat, Houston Dash. They kick off their season Saturday, March 15th against the San Diego Wave, and then they play at home.